All right, welcome. We have Miss April Smiles here. I am Kiki Tyler, and we are chatting about how we both have gone from fitness to freedom and just kind of our story, how we got into the fitness world and our journey throughout. So today's part one. April, you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit about where you are?
Yes, all right. This is so fun, so exciting. And I'm super grateful. So I'm April, and I was born in Washington, D.C., originally from Maryland, and ended up in Virginia, and ended up getting the position Zoom education specialist. And let's see, that the whole fitness part came into my life. What's that? Actually 2000, around 2000, beginning in 2008. And I ended up getting membership at a YMCA, started getting into fitness, teaching like dance fitness. And then that's when Zumba came into my life. So I've been teaching Zumba since 2009, became a Zumba education specialist officially beginning of 2011. And been doing it all the way up through until the beginning of this year. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm excited to share this journey with you, Kiki.
Thank you. I love that. So, yeah, I was born in Pennsylvania, grew up in New Jersey, came to Virginia for college, and got into Zumba. My ex-fiance actually gave me the VHS box set. So that was kind of like the best thing out of that relationship. And that introduced me to Zumba and fitness. And my girlfriend's mom was actually a director at a fitness center in Virginia. And she was like, "We have this live class. You should come. I know you've been doing it, at home." And that's where I met Aska. She was subbing. Like, what the synchronicity of it was, the one day I went to check out a class, she was subbing, and I was hiding in the back row, sweats on, hat, and she was like, "You in the back with the hat," and I'm like, "Oh man, I'm the only one with the hat. That's me." um, but yeah, she pulls me up to the front. We make an instant connection, and she pulls me aside at the end, and she invites me to go to this Zumba training. And it's a 2-day event in Miami, and then that's kind of my gateway to the fitness world.
Yes, yes. I love that. So here's the thing, we have very similar stories because David Topel, very good friend and beautiful person in the Zumba world, David Topel, him and Diane Falcons they were hosting an event. It was the same thing. I was in the background, in the back, just like you. And then it was Diane that actually, and honestly, so we were at an event. I was in the back. I was all excited, and Diane called me up. So, and that's crazy as far as that. I'm just like, how parallel it is for both of us as far as that. I love it.
Oh, and I got to meet Diane. She came out. So fast forward, went and got certified, and then they had the jammer position where we were choreography coaches for other instructors. And she came out, and Tanya and I were doing a co-jam and a master class. And I think she had just had one of her knee surgeries, so she was running around with her scooter. So I was her body. So she was like, "Hey, come here, do this, do this, do this." And
Mhm.
yeah, it was same thing. Really, really nice lady. I met David later, and he's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Ups and downs. So got into that. When did I start? 2005 was the 2-day training with Beto, and it was in Miami before they moved their headquarters to Orlando. Um, so yeah, it doesn't feel like that long ago.
No, because I'm still remembering now that you brought that up, as far as with you being in the back, I'm still remembering that event that Diane and David did. And it does not feel like that long ago at
Mm-mm.
all. That's crazy.
No, it's fun. I mean, I was terrified. I was happy being a student, hanging out, dancing in my basement, and then like trying to hide in the back row. And then all of a sudden, you take the certification, and you're like, "Oh, now I'm on this side." I have to count and smile and think, and like so many things are going through your brain. But I had a lot of people believe in me, push me, and help me, and it doesn't come as natural and easy as people think. Like I still get nervous when I do events and when I teach 18 years later. That's
Yeah.
just, you know, but what a beautiful journey. It's brought so many amazing people like you and Sonia and other. I've been friends with students, like they're my girlfriends, my fit fam. Like it just opened the door to so much. And then I became a personal trainer and learned more about the anatomy of the body. And you have an education background, right? I
Yep,
think,
that's right. Yep, it was it has a, I have a master's degree in education. It was in college student affairs leadership, so working in higher education. And
okay.
I used to teach college level classes. And then you remember freshman seminar, I taught that as well. Freshman
Yep.
seminar, yeah. That was like
Yeah.
that was my favorite class to teach. So, and then advising the college students. And I forgot, yeah, I was at Temple University before I had my second son. So
Wow.
I was assistant director of academic advising for the College of Science and Technology at Temple University. And, and I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh man, and really quick. So like my dream, I thought at the time, was to become a director of an academic advising center for the university, because I got my master's degree in education and my focus was on academic advising.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I said, okay, by the age of 30, I want to be a director of an academic advising center. So I ended up going to being assistant director. And then I had the opportunity to become director because my supervisor, that director, she ended up having to leave to go relocate because her husband was in the medical field. So he was doing his residency. And so they had to
Okay.
relocate. They had to relocate to another state. So that opened up that position. And she kept saying, April, you really should become the director. You know, you really need to take this position. So I'm going back and forth. I'm on the train, commuting and everything. Kiki, I was like, wow, I'm about to be 30 and this is actually about to happen. I'm on the train, it's a long commute, make it short, I'm crying back and forth. The commute is basically, I'm the first stop on the train and then I'm the last stop going back home. So it was like at least an hour commute, one way.
One way.
On the train, yep. I'm crying, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm like sitting there the whole time. And so I'm going to the office, she's still convincing me and I'm still not saying yes.
Mm.
At the time I didn't know why, but then like, so to make it short, funny thing is, and this is how I love how spirit works. Okay, so I apparently now I know, yeah, you were meant for this transition to where we're at now, basically. But
Yeah.
the time I went into work, because I'm still going back and forth crying. I go to the office on the train crying, come back home on the train crying, and then I finally get into the office one day, and she says to me, "You know what, April? I don't think this is going to be good for you. No, you're good. I can see it's not for you to take this position." Out of nowhere.
Mm.
And so
Wow.
anyways, yeah, so I'm just like, okay, so for me, I took that as confirmation. All right, this is why I've been crying and going back and forth. And even after that, I actually ended up leaving the assistant director position. I was calling my mom and I was like, Mom, something's missing. I'm like, I'm missing something. I'm like, I feel like it's something else I need to be doing. So I just left the position as assistant director and ended up, that's when I just was like, let me just figure out what I want to do. I got into the Y membership, asked them if they're looking for a dance instructor, and then, got into the whole fitness industry because the exercise director was like, hey, can you take that dance instructor experience you're doing and do like a dance aerobics? And I never even, and then they wanted a Zumba instructor and I didn't even know what Zumba was then. So I was like, okay, well, you're gonna pay for it. So that sounds fun, dance fitness.
Yeah.
Right. So, and yeah, anyway, so I'm bringing that up because it amazes me how I'm able to, going back to what you talked about as far as my degree in education, I'm like, wow, here is this position that opened up for a Zumba education specialist. I've been dancing since I was 4. I'm a natural born teacher and I love education. So you mean to tell me here I am, I'm able to get in this position where I can teach people how to do basic steps as far as dancing, and it's then I get to dance as well, and I get to get paid for it. So okay, thank you. Like I was so, it was so amazing. Like I was, and I'm still honestly, I'm still grateful. I'm still in awe that I was given that position, and that they trusted me to, be able to inspire so many lives, as far as whether people are student or end up becoming instructor. So
That's awesome. I always wondered how you got on the path of Zest.
yeah, because I was like, oh, you know what? Let me tell Kiki this because I don't think we had that conversation like that, but that was pretty much it. Like just me having that master's degree in education, working in higher education. I was going to get my doctorate. I had a full
Mm,
ride in Michigan. I was in Michigan. I had a full ride scholarship to get a doctorate of education in higher education administration because I wanted to be a professor.
yeah.
I wanted to teach and I wanted to have my summers. It was so cool, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my dissertation. And so then I was like, no, I gotta get out of here. It's too cold. It's not, I'm not functioning well. I'm not as motivated. And then I tried again for Delaware. I think it was Wilmington. It would end up being turned it to what they ended up turning to Wilmington University. So then I got in there, but there was no scholarship. And then I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, I didn't want to go through that whole thing as far as the dissertation. Yes, I love education and everything, but I was like, there's got to be a different way because I'm not feeling this as far as spending all this money just to go through
Right.
this process. As far as it's like fraternity, sorority, as far as this whole little initiation process, just for me to get tenured and all that stuff. And I'm like, nah, I'm, my family really wanted me because for them it was like you would have been first doctor in the family and this and that. And I was like, ew, those are just letters, not to
Yeah.
people.
Right. That wasn't your path. That wasn't your purpose.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
but and the thing was is that I always consider myself a lifelong learner. But it's funny how you go. It's very interesting how you go along these stages, right? And you're like, wow, my learning comes from all of these experiences, And then I start to become more aware of that, and I'm like, wow, they start to look different, be in a different light. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad I shared a little more of that, so you know where I came.
Yeah. So, and and it wasn't a 9 to 5, it was retail. I worked for a family
Yeah.
business, jewelry store, and loved that. Started teaching a class here or there, and then owners went through a divorce, and it was right around the time they were talking about opening a second store and having me run it. I always loved sales. I've always loved working with people and that entrepreneurial spirit of like running things. I like to get into the logistics, like how do things work? How can we make it better for everybody, like the customer as well as the business owner. So that was a little hard. I had a little contract position. So there was like the 6 months where I wasn't teaching. And after teaching for a year, I was like, it was like a piece of me was missing. I didn't have that dance, that connection with the students. I was actually in Indiana. So talk about cold. It was like 12 degrees and it was like getting your bones cold. And I was like, the boss was amazing. The team was amazing. They made me feel like family immediately. He was like ready to help me buy a townhouse and he wanted me to work for him permanently. And I was like, thank you so much. I need to go back to the East Coast where my family and friends are. I cannot do this anymore. like, um, and then I came back and a girlfriend said they were looking for a recruiter at her company and I interviewed for that position. So then I had a 9 to 5, which I'd always worked weekends. Like all through college, I worked full time, went to college full time. So I'm like, what is this Monday through Friday and Saturday and Sunday off business? I don't know what that's like. But jumped in and it freed up all my evenings. I wasn't key holder, I wasn't closing. So then I went a little crazy and started teaching 8 to 10 classes on top of my 9 to 5. But it was so fun. I met great people. Then they opened the Zumba Jammer position And I don't have a dance background. I can say I do now because I consider Zumba fitness and all the other things I've learned. But I played piano growing up, played flute. I danced when I was 6, and then I was put into piano lessons. So I wasn't going to apply. I think, Tanya Bossert, she and I would co-teach, and she was applying as well. And she was helping me record the choreography, and we lived so close. I was like, let's just see what happens. I'm doing this for fun. Had no intent. I was like, they're going to pick her. She has a ballroom dance background. She speaks multiple languages. Like, we both got in, and we were so excited because we were like, we're going to do the Kiki and Tanya tour. And we did like road trips and co-jammed. And I helped Asuka and I helped Ko with their trainings. And I remember when you got into the position, because you and Tanya, I think, were applying for ZES at the same time at one point.
Yep.
And I remember you were doing one in Virginia, and I was available, and I reached out to see if you needed help. Do you remember this story?
No.
So the first time you were like, no, thank you, I got it. I have my own helpers. And I was like, okay, that's fair enough. And then like I waited till the next one, and 2 of my students were actually going. And I asked if I could be there for the master class. I know the rules and I respect everything. And I was like, if you need help, I've helped Asuka and Co. And you were like, oh, I'll chat with you after the master class and we can take it from there. And then I came with my 2 students, and you were like, yeah, stay for the day. And then you started bringing me up to help with you. And then we went to dinner afterwards. And then you had a story about, I believe it was another jammer who wasn't as polite and professional and was a bit aggressive and showed up.
Okay.
So does that ring a bell? So it had nothing to do with me at all. It was
Nope.
just, yeah.
It would, yep. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you now, Kiki. Yeah, yeah. That's how, okay. Oh my gosh, yeah. Because I remember in the beginning, because I had to be very selective as far as, well, I'm picky anyway. Because here's my thing, and that's the one thing I learned about with the 2 of us. Like, we genuinely want to be there for the participants, for the people, that are
Yeah.
there. And it's not, hey, look at me, and unfortunately, that's how some are. So, you have some not so pleasant experiences with that. And I love the fact that we just love doing what we do. Genuinely love doing what we do and helping people in the process. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, in and I love that. And then I love, once I learned, because that's the thing, I had to learn, obviously observe, yeah. And then once I learned, as far as, I was like, oh my gosh, Kiki's a sweetie. Okay, she's just there, it's chill. Like, that's the thing. I guess that's the biggest thing, is that we just were like, yeah, no drama, because you get drama everywhere, right? Wherever
Mm-hmm.
you go, there's always drama, And with us, there was no drama because it wasn't a thing. You were just cool with how I, did certain things as far as the training and stuff. And you're like, okay, cool. I was like, okay, she's cool with it. There's no problems. There's no trying to step in, take over, anything like that. We just genuinely, let's get this done. Let's get these people licensed, and let's give them the experience that, that we've received and that we've been so blessed to have. So
Yeah, it was, I mean, you're the boss, you're running the show. If I can support you and make it easier. And then I got over to the clothes, and you're like, oh, perfect, you can run that. That was a headache. That's a lot to
yeah.
do. And then everything. And then at that point, you were still handing out all the manuals and the DVDs and the packets and the manual sign in. Like, it wasn't as electronic and cloud based as it is now. Um, People don't, I think, look at that part. They show up and they're like, oh, this is fun, I want to do it. And I remember after every training you and I did together, they're like, oh, so how do I become a jammer? Because the jammer's the next step to become a ZES.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, they're kind of separate and parallel. They're just different. It was interesting. I remember the one, I can't remember where it was, but we were driving in the snow,
Mhm.
and I think you were coming down with a cold, and
Mhm.
it was a B2. It was a B2 workshop. I want to say West Virginia, maybe, but we had so much fun. And there was one point where you lost your voice, and then it was you pushing me out of my comfort zone to cue, because I was a non-verbal 100% cue. I did not talk and dance. And it was like the Cabradita, and it was a lot of syncopated things. And you're just sitting in the back smiling. And
I
I
remember.
was like, I was so nervous, so much back sweat.
Oh my gosh, Kiki. Yes, I remember that. Oh my gosh, all these experiences, man. Yeah, my voice and because I would lose my voice a lot because I'm so passionate, and that's the crazy thing is we're being introverts.
I know.
But yet, when it comes to trying to, when working to educate people and get them as far as the trainings, I started to have more and more to say because I started learning from my experiences. And I'm like, wow, and I'm passionate about it. I just go, go, go. And then to the point where it was just like, okay, my body was just like, you need to rest. You're talking too much as far as all of that. So thank goodness you were there. And yeah, it's funny because I didn't even look at it like that then because I'm like, okay, yeah, Kiki will be good. I know she'll just do fine, but not paying attention to you being similar to me is like, oh my gosh, okay, so you want me to talk? That was the whole thing with Zoom. But what I love is because you don't have to talk as far as like teaching the class,
Right.
right? So that made it very convenient. But then when it comes to, actually talking and doing the verbal for instructing the instructor, it's a different ball game. So I didn't even look at that then. I knew that I'm like, all right, well, I mean, obviously I trusted you enough I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have her do it because I can't just keep doing this with my voice like that. And I just already had the confidence that you would just do it, but didn't even pay attention to that, oh wait, she might be a little nervous about this.
And I don't think I've ever shared that with you either. I was just
No.
like, okay, April needs me. I'm going to do it. And that came from that place of necessity and like, okay, we're going to make this happen. These people showed up in the snow. Like, this is going to be an amazing workshop. I think we had 7 or 8 awesome ladies and they were rocking it. You always added personal touches. Like each instructor or zest that I supported, they had little nuances, but like you made it all your own. Like you
Yeah.
mixed up the order and you had quotes and inspiration woven in. Like those people were pumped and excited and ready to go teach that next Monday. It was like, I can do this. That was the vibe that they left with,
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
every time. But going back to, what the toll it takes on your body. I mean, you have to get up early, get all set up. You have the master class, and then you're on that entire 8 hours. And yes, there are breaks written in, but there's a line of people wanting to ask you questions. And I remember just trying to get you food or water or something. And I was like, I need to take care of you so you don't run yourself into the ground as we do. And then like we slept great that night for sure. But I remember when the Fitbit first came out, we were clocking 40,000 steps just for that 8 hours. That's how
Mhm.
much movement we were doing. And it was very physical, but then there was that emotional and mental part too that I will say 100% I was not taking care of. I was just grinding it out. Go, go, go. Very much in that masculine action energy. Didn't know it then. And that's where I'd hit the wall. And I was having vertigo spells. I was having nausea.
Yeah.
Um, I was having back pain, not because of the Zumba, but from an old car accident I had. But it was being aggravated because of too much movement, right? Too much of anything is no good for anyone, right? That
Mhm.
balance and alignment. Um, but yeah, I was more sick when I was teaching. Now that I think back to it, whether it's the
Yeah.
vertigo or getting whatever little cold was running around the office, um, I wasn't taking care holistically of myself.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely relate to that, Kiki. And that's what we were doing. And both of us being in the masculine energy, that's what we were on. We were just like pumped, adrenaline, like, oh man, this is amazing. We just gonna do this. We're gonna make it happen. We're gonna grind it out no matter what, because we knew that we could. But then,
Yeah,
yeah, like you said, as far as all that, yeah, because you got me looking back on it too. I'm like, oh man, all of my hip pain and standing for so long and all of that, it wears you down. Like you said, we talked about that in the burnout as far as in the level 2 training.
yeah,
But the thing is, we talk about it, we share it with other people, but then of course, practice what you preach. But it was just on autopilot, and us being in the masculine energy that we were in, it was like, no, nope, can't hold us, can't stop us. We still gonna grind. We still gonna make it happen. We still want to be successful and do this. And plus, it's so much fun. I don't want to, I don't want to
That
stop.
dopamine, right? That huge dopamine hit, and then the like that combined with the adrenaline, and it was almost like a badge of honor. Like I look back on it, I was working out 3+ hours a day, 6, sometimes 7 days a week, and at the same time dieting and starving myself. Like I was probably in adrenal fatigue, and I was actually gaining weight at certain points, even though I was still trying to like weave in the lifting. But I remember it was almost like this competition, especially when instructors were posting on Facebook and like, I'm teaching 3 classes, I'm teaching 5 classes. I taught this many in a day. I'm not even talking a week, I'm
Yeah,
talking in a day.
yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome. Can I hug you? Because your body needs some love. Like I'm not knocking it. Everybody has to do what they need to do for them. But looking back on it, I was just as competitive. And I was like, I'm teaching 8 classes. Oh, yeah, I can sub 2 more. I can teach 3 classes back to back. That's my max, That's bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not eating in between that. Your body's not recovering. I mean, I was seeing a chiropractor on a regular basis. It was right.
Mm-hmm.
There was no balance. There was no self care. There was no rest. Heaven forbid I do a rest day where I not move at all.
Yeah.
And then I feel like my path went the other way, probably because my body and my mind needed that, where I didn't feel like moving or going balls to the wall and just like go, go, go. Like
Mm-hmm.
a 15 or 20-minute movement, a short walk, a little bit of yoga or Pilates, like your body's still moving. That's still a beautiful movement. You don't need to wake up sore like you killed yourself in order for it to be an effective workout. But that's not always preached, particularly in the fitness world and amongst certain groups of instructors. I'm not going to put a blanket over everyone, right? I see a nice trend going in the other way,
Mm-hmm.
balance and more efficient workouts. But yeah, learn
Yeah,
from our
yeah.
mistakes. Don't kill
No,
your body.
there's definitely lessons in that, Key, because if you think about it, we were sitting up here trying to keep up with everybody. Right? You're trying to keep up with the other ones that are, get this, getting in shape. And even now I'm looking at people that are going to be at the convention, and you see them, they're showing as far as the hardcore workouts, because they has to be a certain body. It's, your body has to be a certain way, physique for when you're presenting and all of that. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, yeah, that was me.
Mm-hmm.
That was me. We trying to keep up with the whole trend, to keep up with the industry as far as the unspoken standards, if you will, so-called standards, as far as all of that.
Right.
Because yeah, yeah. So and,
The
and
image.
yeah, the whole image. That's it. The image.
And whether that's society based, fitness industry, or a combination, it's all external. And once I unplugged from that, like I call 2020 the great unplugging, right? We got off the hamster wheel. We weren't just go, 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 got to pay the bill, got to do the next thing. You actually got to pump the brakes and think, what feels good? What
Yeah.
do I really want for me? And that was like journaling, meditating, walking, however you came to it. I didn't need to be that. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
need that external validation. I mean, sure, we want it, we crave that attention, I feel like, from a certain aspect. And then kind of peeling back the layers, where is that coming from?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the start of the healing journey and what got me into more of the energy work at the very beginning. Inner child, right? Going all the way back. Where is this feeling coming from? Is it mine? Are these thoughts mine? Or are they somebody else's that was planted, that has been on repeat, that I've now called mine? If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You start, so that, I like how you said that 2020 is like the great unplugging, because now I feel like the universe was just like, everybody is going to shut down now, because there needs to be some shedding taking place. There needs to be some resetting. And listen, y'all don't seem like y'all gonna do it on your own, so let me give you a little nudge.
Yep.
for a lot of reflections to take place, and a lot of things, happened then. And so honestly, sometimes I'm like, wow, did that just really happen? Where we all shut down and everybody didn't have a choice but to unplug? You know, did that really happen? And it's like, wow, that was like 3 years, a little more than 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's very surreal still.
Yeah.
And it was scary, and there are heightened emotions, and not belittling or wanting that to happen again with the loss of life that was tragic. Uh, I like to look at the silver lining and a lot of the good things that came of it. You know, digital fitness on demand. I wouldn't have connections with half the students I do now. I haven't met half of them in real life. It's all been through social media, emails, friend of a friend. But I have ladies in my class from Canada and Colombia and Portugal and the UK and the West Coast, and we're one little happy family. We hang out, we know each other's kids' names and pets' names and birthdays and what's going on and what do you have going on this week. And it's a different kind of community. And I know it's not for everyone. People that once the flag was lifted and they could go back in person, they ran and are never going back, which I respect that. I personally love digital, and I'm not running to go back to in person. Got the commute both ways, trying to fight for parking, changing, and then students, like, they've got kids they have to drop off. If they're home, they just turn their camera off. Kids can be running around in the background. I don't need to see them. They don't need to worry about it, and they can still get their workout in. Heck, sometimes there have been piles of laundry in the back. Like, do what you need to do, but the convenience factor is mind blowing to me. I wouldn't go back and add all those extra hours onto my day. I'm like, why? When I can just hit play. And then the on demand is another level in and of
Yeah.
itself, which I love. And I get messages from ladies, oh my gosh, that class was awesome. And it's like, oh, thank you. And we're not killing ourselves anymore. It's like we do it once, but it still makes people happy again and again,
Mm-hmm.
which is so beautiful.
It is. It really is. And we talk about the whole any movement is better than no movement at all. Now, I'm not taking away from the live, face-to-face experience, but there's new things that are taking place, and now it's keeping up with the new things as far as all of this with the digital, right? It's just and then just going with the flow. Do I miss the in person? Yeah, absolutely. I guess for me now it would be different. I still want to do in person, but there's so much more that has come from this whole resetting and unplugging to do different things, not just focus on one particular thing like fitness, for example. There's so much more that we need for that balance, right? So I'm looking forward to the in-person to offer that, like with retreats and stuff like that. But I am grateful for, since we're talking about, I guess we're starting with this, talking about the whole fitness piece. I'm grateful for, just my body being able to go through all that it went through, and like just all the activity with the cardio and dancing and everything. And now I'm looking forward to my body being more of a flow, a dynamic flow, as far as with more stretching and just free movements, being bare feet and all of that. That's what I'm looking forward to. Do I miss it as far as all that? Yeah, but it's had its moments, that was the season, back then. And here comes 2020 as far as the unplugging and the reset. And, it just came up in my mind. I'm like, wow, people tend to look at it like, oh my gosh, it's so devastating. The world just shut down and the world just went into this depression. No. I actually, with so many things that have happened, over the past 3 years, I actually welcomed it because honestly, I felt like too, my body really needed a break. And going back to when we're talking about the physical body, it was like, all right, because at first I was like, wait a minute, I'm not gonna do any trainings. Hold on, it just shut down. But then at the same time, there was a relief because I mentioned before I was having so much hip pain. And like you said, as far as the chiropractor, I was going to the chiropractor. Even the chiropractor was saying, April, you need to stretch before you're starting this whole training day, and you need to stretch after. You cannot just get in a car and drive hours back home right after you've done an all-day training, because it's just gonna lock up as far as your joints and everything. Your
Yeah.
body your body's screaming for you to stretch more. Because I explained to them as far as what happens during the training, and they were like, "Yeah, but are you taking enough time for you to just stretch you?" And I'm
Yes.
like, "No,
No.
no, yeah."
No.
And
I'm.
then, even with the chiropractor, I with them saying that what they're saying, because of course I felt better once going to them, but then they were telling me and giving me things to do,
Mhm.
afterwards, as far as all of
Yeah.
that. But I still never did it because I was still on that whole autopilot and just keep going. And so here comes 2020, and it was just like, thank goodness. I mean, I didn't know where the money was going to be coming from as far as, income and all like that, but it was a relief because
Mhm.
my body was screaming, please help.
Right. No, I remember you and I would both pack our travel foam roll, like the trigger foam roller, and but we never used them and would quickly pack it up and throw it back because we're like, we got 2 hours to get back home and I'm hungry. And yeah, it was like, and then sometimes it was a double day, like you were doing B1 on Saturday and B2 on Sunday. I mean, we felt like we got hit by a truck come Monday morning. It was like,
Yep.
what? Why are we doing this? Because we love it, and we truly did and do. For me, it was a combination of, yes, the unplugging physically, because I was starting to get low back pain and I was seeing a chiropractor, and he was similar. He's like, you're teaching too much, like the impact on your spine. Because I'm a jumper, I don't mean to, but the music comes on and I get so excited and I add an extra level. I don't know why, but I got pulled out of the cubicle environment, which I never liked, but you do it because that's how offices are set up. And I'm like, what happened to private offices and closing the door and one-on-one conversations? The thing that I loved when we went digital, I had such beautiful conversations with clients again. Like it was one-on-one. They weren't in an office distracted. I wasn't in an office distracted. My cats were walking across the keyboard, like they're like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, take care of them. I'm an aunt. I know, take care of the kids. They come first. So we just got to build these deep, authentic, genuine relationships that weren't so professional or corporate level. Like we went several layers deep. And when things started to lift, like the coffee and lunches were completely different. Like we'd maybe spend 5 or 10 minutes on business, but it was really, how are you doing? How are you holding up? How's the family? How are the kids? And it was just that human connection was just expanded on an exponential level, I felt like. Whereas if we had stayed in our cookie, it would have been like, yep, 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 yep. And that rush, that check in a box, I got to go to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I remember when I first started watching Grey's Anatomy, there was an episode where Izzy had to see like the psychologist in the hospital, and the psychologist was like, "Hey, Izzy, how are you?" And she's like, "I'm great. How are you?" And she's like, "Oh, sweetie, that's outside Izzy." And she put her hand on her heart and she said, "I'm asking about inside Izzy." And I was just like, that hit me. Like, how often is it knee jerk? How are you? I'm great. How are you? And it's just like to get by that question instead of not so great. Oh, do you want to talk about it? Like, how often do we do that? And kind of go back to that village mentality. Like we're all in this together. Take care of each other. And going back to the collective, I mean, my students were my babies. Like I knew when someone was missing. I knew what row they danced in. If I was friends with them on Facebook, I could reach out to them. That was who I was and who I am. And I, whether you're that way or not, it just came natural, I guess. um but there was 2 weeks I didn't teach. So lockdown happened. We weren't going back to the office. There was a little bumpy getting set up, and then I didn't know how. And we were all thinking it's just going to be a couple weeks and then we'll be fine. And then it wasn't. So then I remember locking myself in my office and spending 2 days trying to figure out this Zoom thing and getting it to work with the music and the video. And I was like, I need to connect with my students. Like we need a place, even if we just hop on and figure it out and dance, and they like we just need to stay connected. And that evolved, and so many hiccups and glitches and technology, and I'm always like, please be good today. Before every class, I'm like, please just don't disconnect till after 7. Like wait till the end of class.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
And you remember
it's almost like, huh?
you remember you helped me with that too, the technology piece too,
Oh
for the
yeah.
digital.
Yeah, my fitness director called me, and then she put me in touch with a couple other instructors. And I've never held an official teaching position, but I feel like I've been the teacher or mentor everywhere I've been. I was talking to a girlfriend yesterday, and she's like, do you find that people often go to you? And I was like, well, I had the nickname Kikipedia at work. I didn't love it, but it's like, guys, all I do is Google stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like knowing who to go to for help as well. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I did not do. I mean, pride, ego, I know I can figure this out. Just give me more time. And I would tell my younger self to raise her hand and ask for help way sooner than she did in all areas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, save so much time and energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow.
I know, like there's so many stories along the road.
I know there's so many. I'm just like, I'm thinking about all this, and I remember you mentioned as far as the instructor training manuals, the actual physical manuals, and then us switching, that we all got, and the DVDs that we got at our instructor trainings, and how I don't even remember when it shifted over to digital, but it was just and don't get me wrong, that was convenient because
Mm-hmm.
we were the ones as the trainers having to bring all of those DVDs plus the manuals, the spiral bound manuals. And I'm just like, wow, you look at everything and how much is shifted. And the funny thing is that, but I still love my tangible, my physical, as far as my hand.
Pen and paper.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
analog. Yeah.
I got all my stuff here as far as all in my notes and everything.
Yep.
Like and I don't have it in here, but I still have I don't know if you do, but I still have my paper calendar. Even though I have my stuff on my Google calendar, I still have okay, yeah.
Yes, it's in Google, and I do type up my notes so I can search on it from any device. But there's something about putting pen to paper, especially as the thoughts are like, don't edit, don't try to like punctuation or spell check, just free flow, just let it flow through you. I don't know, I just remember it, and it spawns other things. It's just different.
Yeah, so different. Like, because yeah, so I was thinking about that with the trainings, and I was just like, man, I still prefer my spiral bound manual. And the funny thing is that when we switched over to digital and the manuals being digital, and then being at the training and doing the training, you had still a good amount of people that will actually take their digital manual, but they come in with it printed out, the whole
Yes.
package into the training. And
Yes.
some of them will actually go and pay, like at Staples, to have it spiral bound. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, because again, obviously there's a lot of other people that think the way we do too, that prefer to just have the visual as far as especially if they just want to write and take some quick notes or what have you. But I still find it amazing that how much we've switched over, like even to the app, that we had to,
Yeah.
which was amazing. It is amazing as far as you being able to create your playlist and all like that. So of course it has its advantages, but then, for me, I remember telling people at the trainings, I'm like, yeah, y'all, I'm still old school.
Yeah. I remember how excited we would be every month to get that new DVD and CD in the mail. Do you remember, like when Netflix and Blockbuster would mail like the DVDs, Zumba would mail us. So every month we get music, and every other month we'd get choreo to go with the music. And I remember so many of my friends stayed on that, and I was like, digital's fine, because I had two giant binders filled with all these DVDs and CDs. Still do, especially when you had like toning and Centau and gold and kids, all the things. Then you started getting choreography. from multiple places.
Mhm.
And the goal was give us more than we could ever use, right? So we have plenty to pull from. But there was just something about getting mail,
Mhm. Mhm.
tangible, like you can hold it, it has your name on it,
Yeah, and
you
you feel
know?
special, you know?
Right. Yeah. It was like my grandmother and grandpa, it was like Miss Christiana and then Master Jordan. Like when we get notes from them for the holidays and things, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, we have mail with our name on it.
Oh my gosh, and I keep forgetting as far as because I'm so used to just calling you Kiki, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, and then Christiana is so pretty. It's
Well,
so
thank
pretty.
you. My mom still calls it me. She's like the only one that uses my full name. I always feel like I'm in trouble when I hear it now. Christiana, yes, mom.
She's the only one though, Kiki, that everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad, my siblings. So I'm one of six. I have three brothers, two sisters, nine nephews, and three nieces. So Aunt Christiana from a 2 year old probably wasn't going to happen. So that's where Aunt Kiki was born. Girlfriends heard it, and then it kind of trickled down. And then my boss called me Kiki and Keeks, and yeah, and it just worked. I mean, especially for the fitness industry and everything else. I think all my certs say Kiki. I think the only one that said Christiana was Body Pump. Um,
Wow. So just your
yeah,
mom. Wow.
yeah, and Mark, I should say, when he doesn't call me babe or honey, like Mark will say Christiana,
Okay,
my
so
fiance.
he doesn't call you Kiki.
No,
Ah,
does not acknowledge that name.
really?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
but
interesting.
I love how you mentioned being barefoot and the other modalities that you've been drawn to because I feel like I'm in that same like I lift barefoot. I love bar. I doing warrior tai chi yoga and I've been getting into qigong and all of them are like barefoot connect ground and I feel like my ankle stability is awesome. I don't have any knee pain, no hip or back pain and it they're all about energy and the meridians and the flow and not killing your body, but doing it because it feels good.
Mhm.
And I think for myself, if it doesn't feel good, why do it? You know?
Exactly. And I think I had mentioned that to you when we were talking before, but I had taught, it was my last virtual Zumba class that I taught. I had on my Zumba sneakers, the yellow ones.
Mm,
And you talked about ankles and knees. And so the adrenaline was going throughout the class. And then afterwards, I literally had to hurry up and sit down because my ankles were killing me. I had to hurry up and take the sneakers off, the socks. I noticed that my knees were bothering me. So I was like, just kind of stretching a little as far as the knees and everything. But yeah, knees and ankles were just on fire. I'm like, okay, so what's the message here? and it's everything you said as far as the whole grounding and just feeling more, connected. Because the crazy thing is that I don't have that pain anymore. Like I taught taught that class, and then I was like, you go teach, go do not teach, but go do your yoga. And it's funny because I'm like, okay, I need to bring that back as far as teaching it,
hmm
especially after that happened. So my body was like, you need to do some yoga, and not necessarily as far as yoga, but you're stretching. I got more. I was like, I just started breathing into my sun salutations and just doing little mini ones, and just that right there, yeah, I felt better,
Yeah.
And it was like, and then when I went on the grass and did it, I'm like, oh, it was such a relief.
Yes.
So, again, the whole transition, that was for a season, I'm sure we both miss it. Then at the same time, we look forward to what is now happening along this journey and what will be happening later on in the journey as well. So,
Yes. I mean, I love that you called it a season because we do go through seasons of life. It's always a part of us. It will never be forgotten. It will never be taken away. And I'm sure we barely scratched the surface on lessons we learned throughout that entire time, just focusing on fitness. And I will say for me, my focus for a long time was misguided. It was on the external shell, and I'm going to be happy when I hit this magic number on the scale, or I'm going to be happy when I get to this magic size. And I did that. I mean, I teeter tottered probably 3 different times throughout the fitness career. And when I got small, I had done nothing on the inside. So I just expected this happiness to show up because I hit these magic numbers that I pulled out of the air, by the way. It wasn't like, oh, this, doctor or guru or anybody told me to do it. Like, I chose these numbers. And that's when I started to shift and, okay, mental, emotional. I think we avoid it. Like, it can be painful in the beginning, but so much comes when you walk through that. And I'm so glad that I've shifted away from that and that I'm not just one dimensional, right? We're multi-dimensional beings. We have mental thoughts, we have emotional feelings, we have spirituality, and we have the physical 3 dimensional that we live in. And when all of those are in alignment, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life, you get to choose to be happy. It's an inside job. It's an inside job.
It
So,
is an inside job. And externally, we were feeling good, right? As far as everything with the fitness, we were feeling good. It was feeling great external.
yeah.
But I don't even think we took the time to, during that whole season of fitness, I don't think we really took the time to be like, oh, okay, well, how are you feeling internal? Because we're so used to and conditioned to the external. Because let's keep it real, as far as with fitness and traditional, we're focusing a lot on the external.
Right. Yeah, what it looks like. So we have about 5 minutes left. Are there any other thoughts or tips you think to share? Part two, we'll start getting into how you and I got into energy.
Okay. I would say just my inspiration from all these experiences in the fitness industry, it has led me to this path, where I'm at now, and I'm very thankful for that. And those lessons that come from, that season of being in fitness, those lessons are blessings, and those lessons they teach us. They teach us to, I would say, be stronger. They teach us to be wiser. And so for me now, I just flow with it. All that I've learned from being in the fitness industry, and especially with Zumba Fitness, has given me so much. My whole mindset has changed, and my my habits that I had with fitness have changed, not in a bad way, in a very good way. But like you said, as opposed to looking at the numbers when it comes to you being a certain weight, you being a certain image. I mean, look, this is all gone. I had
Yeah,
all this hair, and it was
I
just
love it.
cool, right? With the hair
Yeah.
and the hairography that,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was taught with the fitness industry, all the hairography,
That's
right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the
Add the
salsa.
drama.
And that was great. When I look back on it, I'm like, wow, those were fun moments. And one thing I will share, and I'll end with this, I don't need to stay in that, because that was that moment. And as we mentioned, that was that season. I loved all of that with the hairography, everything, and just, the nice little ripple in the stomach. That was great then, but oftentimes we tend to hold on to that. Why hold on to something when there's so much more and so much that's greater for you there? You just have to be open to it, knowing that things are going to have to change significantly. There's a big shift. So we need to stop holding on to those things where we're like, oh, I remember when I was this and I looked this way, as far as all of that. There's so much more to that. That was that season. I no longer need to hold on to that, because now I'm in a transition into shifting into something even greater that serves me, serves my inner being, which then filters out into the outer. So
No, I love that. And I'm glad you brought that up, because the identity part of it, I will say it was a struggle, and I went back and forth before I finally decided to, I say, leave Zumba or close that chapter. And it was last November. And the biggest part was, who am I without Zumba?
Mhm.
And I am somebody without it, right?
Yeah.
It was a very big part of my identity for 18 years, and learned so many things. It helped me with the stage presence and just how to command attention in a room without ever speaking. Like, there's so many amazing gifts that I have that will always be a part of me and with me. And still teach dance. I've made it my own. It's still world dance and everything else. And I just wanted to keep things simple, but that was a hard thing for me to do. And I remember once I finally pulled the trigger and canceled my instructor membership, I think I cried that weekend. It was like, just one door closes, another opens. And I couldn't keep all of that on my plate as I walked into this new version of me. And I would say, give yourself space and grace to be and to feel. Because I had always fought the emotions, I had fought the tears. I had to put on a good smiley face and be the positive Kiki everybody knows. It's like, no, I have bad days. I ugly cry all the time. It's just, there are highs and lows, and that's
Mhm.
life. Those, like you mentioned, seasons. So be easy on yourself. Oftentimes we're our worst critic and are the hardest on ourselves. We don't need anybody's help. We have that covered. So until the next time, thank you so much for watching. Sending lots of light and love your way.